I would like to reconvene the December 2014 meeting of the California Transportation Commission. Why don't we do another roll call to make sure that we have a quorum? Douglas?
Commissioner Alvarado? Commissioner Assemi? Here. Commissioner Burke? Commissioner Dunn? Here. Commissioner Arp? Here. Commissioner Fromer? Here. Commissioner Gilmetti? Commissioner Inman? Here. Commissioner Madaffer? Here. Commissioner Tavaloni? Here. Chair Gardino?
Present.
We have a quorum.
With that, according to the government code, coming out of closed session, there has been actions, and we'd like to announce those actions. The Commission would like to announce with great appreciation the next Executive Director of the California Transportation Commission, Mr. Will Kempton. Before he has a chance to change his mind, we'd like the doors locked, and we would ask our next Executive Director, Will Kempton, to come forward. And as Will makes his way to the dais, we would also like to announce that the Commission has asked our amazing Deputy Executive Director, Susan Branson, to fill the role as Interim Executive Director between January 1 through January 18, with Executive Director Kempton starting with us on January 19.
I'd like to make a correction. That's December 31st.
I thought you were until midnight on December 31st.
December 31st.
Okay. He is so eager. He is so eager. So with that that correction, we will have current Deputy Executive Director Susan Branson serve as our interim Executive Director from December 31 of 2014 through January 18 of 2015. Will you all join me in commending and thanking Susan Branson? With that, Executive Director-elect Kempton, welcome. We're honored that you're going to serve our state in this important way, and we'd invite you to say a few words not lasting more than 3 hours.
Well, Mr. Chairman and members, thank you very much, and thanks for the trust you've put in me with this appointment. I really look forward to working with all of you, and I'm very excited about the opportunity. There's so many challenges facing the state's transportation program, and I look forward to working with you in the future to at least try to deal with some of those. Let me just say that sometimes you go into a new position knowing that you have to fix an organization. That is not the case here. I want to really commend Andre Boutros and all of the staff for the great work that they've done. The Transportation Commission remains one of the most respected agencies in state government, and it really is my honor to take over as Executive Director, and I want to thank Andre for his service. And with that, I know you have a busy agenda, so we'll see you in January.
Will you all join me again in thanking Executive Director Kempton? With that, building on Will's appropriate comments about Executive Director Andre Boutros, and we know that Will build on that firm foundation that Andre has built and continues to leave before his December 30 departure from this role. I would like to thank and recognize our colleague, Commissioner Fran Inman, who has, on behalf of the Commission, provided something for Executive Director Boutros as a small token of our deep appreciation of his 3 decades of service to our state. Commissioner Inman, will you join me in presenting this to our Executive Director?
Thank you. They don't bring those with scissors. Somebody must have. Yeah. What, you wrapped this too much. Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you all. Yes. I'm sure there's.
In a moment, we're going to ask our executive director to say a few words, but in addition to this wonderful plaque that Commissioner Inman has prepared on behalf of the Commission and her colleagues, we would also like to present on behalf of the California State Assembly a resolution to our outgoing executive director, signed by Assembly Member Bonnie Lowenthal, as well as Senator Mark DeSaulnier.
Thank you. They're getting bigger.
Oh, you spoke too soon. And then, of course, a commendation of our appreciation as a formal resolution from the Commission as well. Will you all join me with a thank you to Andre Boutros? You take your time. We'd ask our commission colleagues to join in the middle of the dais so that we can capture this moment. Doug, thank you.
I think it's good to go out with a sparkle, right?
It's your sparkle.
That would be
Ready? 1, 2, 3. Got it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Executive Director Boutros, we'd be honored if you would like to say a few words.
Not over now.
Boy, I'm overwhelmed. I don't get overwhelmed that easily, but I am. So thank you all so very much. 30 years within the state service, and I am really happy that I was able to finish it with you all here on the dais in particular, but really with everyone in this room and outside of this room that I've been able to work with and alongside for so many years. And you know, I'm just going to keep this short because I don't think I can keep my sanity here. So I wanted to really thank you all for all the support that you have given me over the years, and the Commission for all your trust and allowing me to do what I've been able to do, you know, as an individual within your organization, but mostly really lately as the leader of this organization. We all did such great things for the state of California, and I'm proud of everything that's been done. I'm proud of the staff that we have. I'm proud of you. I am proud of all the partnerships and the relationships that, you know, I personally have been able to put in place. And I will miss you all. I look forward to seeing you somewhere along the path. Hopefully our path will cross again. And from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much. And I appreciate everything that you guys do. And keep going. Keep it up. We need all the help we can get. So let's keep it moving. Thank you all. See you later.
Andre, well done, and I'd like to recognize any commissioners who would like to comment briefly as well. I see the mic of Commissioner Fromer and perhaps Vice Chair Dunn. And Commissioner Assemi. Commissioner Fromer?
Just briefly on a personal note, Andre, I want to thank you for your service to the Commission and your service to the state. You have been just a tremendous force for good, and what I love about you is you do your job with a tremendous amount of integrity. You've looked out for the independence of this Commission as an institution. You've been creative in terms of helping us think through problems that are often thorny, and you've been a good counsel. And I hope we'll have an opportunity to work together again, but I thank you. It's incredible to me that there are so many good people in state government who do such tremendous things. They're unsung heroes, but they make things work and they make things happen. And Andre, you're like the poster guy for that. You're awesome. Thanks for helping out so much. I wish you well.
Vice Chair Dunn?
I do not think that I could have been more articulate in my affection than Commissioner Fromer has. The respect that we have for you is deep and everlasting, and we know we're not going to see the end of you. So I will keep my comments at that and know that it's been well said. Thank you. Thank you very much for your service.
Thank you, Vice Chair Dunn. Commissioner Assemi.
Andre, it's been a pleasure to serve this commission with you. You've been an incredible director, incredible leader, and we will and I will miss you tremendously. You've done incredible work not only for this commission, the state of California, but for the commuters of California. And every time I had an issue or question, you answered it expeditiously with lots of wisdom, incredible experience, incredible knowledge, and I'm grateful for that. And I'm most importantly grateful for your friendship.
Thank you, Commissioner Assemi. Commissioner Medeffer, were you signaling?
I just want to say, as somebody who's been here the shortest amount of time, how impressed I have been with Andre and the entire team. You've done a great job. Just as Will Kempton said, CTC is probably one of the more highly respected state organizations, and it's in no small part due to your leadership over the years. So congratulations on your retirement. It's been a pleasure working with you.
Thank you, Commissioner Medeffer. Commissioner Taglioni.
Well, Andre, all these people saying all these nice things about you. Somebody's got to tell the truth about you. So I don't know exactly what that is, but I can say that I've never asked you for anything that you weren't Johnny on the spot to get the answer for me one way or the other, whether I liked it or not. I will sorely miss you for all the things that you have done, but I can tell you and I can tell the world that without that lovely wife of yours, you would not have gotten as far as you have. And I don't want you to forget that, and I will certainly tell her that one more time, because without her, I know that you would have slipped a little bit. And she is such a wonderful person and someone that has stuck closely with you and behind you and in front of you in all these tough times of good and bad. But I just want to thank you so very much for all you've done for all of us here on the dais and also for the state of California, because without you, this Transportation Commission would have slipped, I'm sure, someplace along the line. And thank you so very much for your friendship.
What a nice, I thought, what a nice ending note. Then I looked to my right. I saw Commissioner Arp and Commissioner Inman's mics. Commissioner Arp?
No one wants to follow Commissioner Taglione, but everything he said is spot on, as well as Commissioner Frommer and the rest of these. They've all done it very well. I just want to thank you personally for the many times I've called you and how accessible you've been. You've always, it didn't matter what time of the day, oftentimes you've called me from who knows where after hours to help fill me in on something that I needed to know that I had asked about. And Andre, I appreciate the dedication you put to this organization. We all are going to miss you. You've been great. And you know what? You've got a great, you got a great time ahead of you. It won't take you long to get over this. Believe me.
No, nothing that little time in therapy won't help. Jim Arp, thank you so much. Commissioner Inman.
Andre, I too want to add my thanks, and I just want to call out what a wonderful kind of historical encyclopedia you've always been. You have the amazing memory to, I think you could tell us what line item it was on every agenda, and that has just been so valuable to all of us, so thank you. And I'm sure that our paths will indeed cross as we continue to all be passionate about mobility and transportation. And take a look at the freight sector.
Are there any other comments from the dais besides the Executive Director? Executive Director Boutros, in addition to everything my colleagues have said, with which I concur, I would also mention that leaders are known also by the strength of the staff team that follows, and boy, are we blessed under your leadership with a tremendous staff. And people don't work for something they don't believe in, and for someone they don't believe in, and I think that is a true credit to your leadership. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you all. I really do appreciate all the comments and the nice words. You know, this is something that I will remember forever. You know, for as long as I'm alive. You guys have been awesome to work for and with, and yes, we do have some of the best staff that you can find anywhere. So with that having said, I wanted to really take maybe one more moment to congratulate Susan on her achievement, and for you to recognize her to serve for that duration between December 31st and January 18. And I wanted to congratulate Will for his appointment starting January 19 to come to the commission as the next executive director. I really am excited about the future and the possibilities that may really come before you and before the state of California, and I hope that you know, it's all for the positive, and I'm going to be look at any opportunities out there to engage and be as useful and as effective in terms of what I can provide, you know, whether directly to public organizations or private entities. I'm not walking away from my career. My career is probably just taking a turn here. There's a fork in the road. I think it's a great opportunity for me to step into maybe a little coma and recover from what I've been able to do for the last 30 years. But you never know. I may be sitting in the audience one day, or I may see you somewhere else dealing with transportation issues. That's what I know, and that's what I've done for essentially my entire career. So with that, I really do appreciate all your support, your guidance, your trust, and I wish you the best, and I think you are in good hands with your staff, organization, and the leadership that you chose. And with that, thanks again.
We thought it appropriate to, on Andre's last commission hearing, to load in as many resolutions of necessity as possible, knowing how much he enjoys those. So with that, why don't we move to agenda item 2, a resolution of necessity. I'd like to turn it over to Stephen Mahler.
Yes, Commissioners, we have some resolutions to deal with. Under eminent domain law, a property owner whose property is under condemnation consideration has the right to appear before the Commission to question 3 and only 3 issues. 1, does public interest and necessity require the project? 2, is the project planned and located in a manner that will be the most compatible with the greatest public good and least private injury? And 3, is the property necessary for the project? The Commission neither determines the amount of compensation for the property rights to be acquired nor deals with any other issues than the 3 just stated. Government Code Section 7267.2 requires the Department to make an offer to purchase the property rights needed. The Department has made the required offer. Code of Civil Procedure Section 1245.240 specifies 8 affirmative votes for Commission approval of a resolution of necessity. The Commission scheduled an appearance for this condemnation at its October 2014 meeting. The Commission postponed action because there was confusion as to the nature of the condemnation. Was it a full take or a part take? The property is approximately 3 acres in size, is zoned freeway commercial, and is used as a scrap metal recycling center and warehouse. The property is impacted by a $546 million freeway widening project on Interstate 5 in southern LA County. The Department needs 1.8 acres in fee, 0.15 acres in temporary construction easement, and 0.26 acres in temporary demolition easement. By law, the state is precluded from condemning more property than is actually necessary for project construction, but can take an uneconomic remnant that is incapable of independent development. If a remainder is capable of independent development and a property owner does not want to keep it, the property owner can request that the state take the entire property. District 7 Director Carrie Bowen is ready to present a short refresher overview showing the location of the project and the project's impacts on the property in question. So, Carrie.
Carrie, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Chairman, and congratulations, Andre, and thank you for all of your support since you've been in your position. Today, I'm here to talk again about the resolution of necessity for VCJT LLC property, more commonly referred to as Star Scrap Metal. This is the last resolution of necessity on the I-5 South Corridor project, and the property is located on South Firestone Boulevard in the city of La Mirada, California. This is it's in the I-5 South Corridor project, which you're familiar with. The Star Scrap Metal property we are discussing is within segment 2 of the corridor. The location of the Star Scrap Metal property is shaded in pink and is south of Firestone Boulevard in the city of La Mirada, adjacent to the proposed I-5 freeway ramps. The property consists of 2 parcels. This shows the project over an aerial photo in the vicinity of Star Scrap Metal properties. And here's the different right-of-way requirements that the project needs from the property. The pink outlined area is a Star Scrap Metal property. The existing freeway is located to the north of the property and is outlined in yellow. The existing South Firestone Boulevard is located in between the freeway and the property is outlined in red. And the project widens the freeway and realigns the on-ramp to the south, as shown in light purple in the shaded area. South of Firestone Boulevard will also be realigned in the area shown in orange. And we need to acquire the green area in fee title. A temporary construction easement in yellow is needed as well. And the white dash line represents the 50-foot setback requirement per the City of La Mirada zoning ordinance. Because of this setback requirement, demolition of the entire improvement shaded in blue is necessary. The area of the remainder is shaded in red, and the distance from the 50-foot setback line to the property, the back of the property, will range from 97 to 105 feet. The remainder area behind the 50-foot setback line is 35,013 square feet. The owners contend that Caltrans' compensation offer was not just compensation as required by code. However, the Commission should adopt the resolution of necessity, and it should be for the full acquisition. We did receive a written permission request from the property owner today that they have agreed to the full take or requested the full take. We've also updated the offers of just compensation to the owners of record for full acquisition on November 5th and November 7th, and updated offers of just compensation for partial acquisition was also made on December 3rd. In conclusion, the department has demonstrated that the public interest and necessity require the proposed project. The project is planned and located in a manner that will be most compatible with the greatest public good and the least private injury, and the property sought to be condemned as necessary for the proposed project. An offer of just compensation has been made in accordance with Government Code 7267.2, and the department requests the Commission approve the resolution of necessity for Star Scrap Metal. Stephen.
Yes, right now, really the outstanding issue that we have is this a part take or a full take? And we have received about 2 hours ago a letter from the property owner. It seems to be a request for a full take. So if we could have the property owner representative come up and indicate to the Commission if they are requesting a full take.
Yes, I have speaker card from Ms. Katrina Diaz.
Yes, Katrina Diaz represents the brother, and Mr. Owen represents the sister.
Right.
And right now, the brother has already acquiesced a full take, and we'd like to ascertain if the sister wants a full take or a part take.
Great.
We requested 20 minutes, and they said...
no. You can half that.
Well, okay. That's
Thank
fine.
you. Great. Thank you, and welcome. Thank you for... Yes. Please.
Okay, so last time we heard this matter, and we were asked for, and we granted an extension of time so that the parties could negotiate.
Correct.
So are we going to hear this whole thing over again, or do we just get a status report from the parties where they are on the tape?
No.
That's my question.
Thank you, and let me make that clear. I never liked reruns on television either. We granted a time extension so that parties could negotiate, and we want to hear new information that we have not yet heard. And I would mention again, there are 2 items, 2 and 3, full take or partial take. Stephen, before I ask for comments at the microphone, is there anything that you would like to add?
Yes, we'd like to get clarification if the property owner is requesting a full take or a part take.
Great. Why don't we have that as the lead-in point? Again, new information. And again, we all know one can do a lot with 10 minutes, and we look forward to hearing from you. So when I won't start my clock until your lips start moving. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Commissioners, for hearing us. Let me start off by saying we don't request any take whatsoever. In fact, we're opposed to the take. However, we have requested that if the resolution of necessity is adopted, it be a full take. So that is the request before you. And by the way, that's not new information. That was what we told you last time. But we were here on a part take because that was what was put in front of everybody. Nonetheless, let me tell you that we have spent the last 2 months earnestly negotiating. We have a resolution with Caltrans that we believe is going to be finalized within the next week. Mr. Mueller is here, counsel for Caltrans, who has been the lead negotiator on the other side. The only reason that the agreement wasn't finalized today, frankly, is that from my perspective, Caltrans waited until we sent, in response to the last time we were here, we sent a tremendous amount of information over, including all sorts of appraisals and other matters that was required. And Caltrans, we didn't start
earnestly negotiating the final deal points until probably about a week ago, maybe 10 days ago. We reached final resolution today, except for 2 issues, which we have tentatively concluded, but we don't have the people here from right-of-way who are capable of approving those matters. So Mr. Muller's indicated to us that he will look into them and we will get them resolved within the next day or 2, and that we should have a settlement agreement that's circulated and for signature within a week to 10 days. So what I would request is that we get pushed over one more time and that we go on the consent calendar with our settlement agreement in the next, at the next hearing. And I've talked to Mr. Muller. He can't talk for Caltrans per se, for the staff, but he says that that would not be a problem for him. So I believe that where we stand is that we should we should push this to one more hearing, and therefore we will have a resolution of necessity that will be before you, uncontested, and you'll go on the consent calendar, I'm sure.
Steve, thank you.
This is, by the way, the owner of the property. You'll remember that Rose Starr spoke to you before. Mm-hmm. She really would like to talk with you again, trying not to repeat what she said before. But there has been a lot of history here and a lot of negotiations, and there's a lot of emotion behind it. And I think that it would be fair to let her...
And I think there's some new people here, too.
Okay. And for the record, we haven't had you identify yourself.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm Eric Rowan with Greenberg Traurig. I'm the attorney for the owner, for the Star Scrap Metal side of the ownership, Firestone, and the businesses that are on the property.
Thank you, sir. And you took very little of that time, so you have up to 7 minutes and change.
Thank you so
please.
much.
Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Rose Starrow. I'm the president of Star Scrap Metal Company and Metal Depot, and thank you for giving me this opportunity. I won't repeat much of what I said last time, but I do want to remind you of the effects that Caltrans wrongfully actions will have on me, my family, our employees, many of whom are family to me. My parents were Holocaust survivors, penniless immigrants that started a business on this property in 1947. I've grown the business steadily into one that is hugely successful and worth tens of millions of dollars. I'm the only one of 2 women in the country who have succeeded at this level in a male-dominated scrap industry, and I don't want Caltrans to put me out of business. This property and the businesses it supports is my family legacy. It supports my two sons who I brought into the business, and it supports over 60 employees, many of whom have been with me for over decades. All of us are potentially being put out of jobs by this proposed taking. We are all incredibly distressed that this business we've worked so hard and so long to build and grow is being wrongfully taken away. Not because it is necessary, but because Caltrans and the cities in my area have targeted me and my property for improper reasons. Caltrans specifically told us that it did not investigate the relative harms that could have been mitigated by different freeway expansion alternatives. Instead, it got together with the corridor cities and decided that industrial business looking like mine should be the ones to go, even though commercial businesses on the other side of the freeway could have been relocated, much more easily at a much, much lower cost and without the terrible harm to businesses like mine that are hard to relocate. This violates my rights and worse, tramples on my American dream and the hopes and plans I had for my children and employees. Perhaps worse, despite having told us years ago that it was going to take our property, Caltrans has been unwilling to even talk about it with me until just recently, and it never even acted responsibly until we realized that Caltrans did not abide by the law and simply targeted me and others who the city wanted to get rid of. We have been trying to negotiate with Caltrans a resolution that would allow the state, even though wrong, to take my property and expand the freeway as planned. Simply, I cannot afford the battle, and therefore, despite Caltrans' unlawful behavior and lack of respect for property owners like me, I have no choice but to accommodate. However, we are treated by Caltrans as if they have us over a barrel and it can jam us up at the last minute, but Caltrans needs to do the right thing. After the last hearing with you, Caltrans said that it was listening to you and wanted information from us to support a resolution, and we immediately gave all our appraisals anything they needed. However, Caltrans took weeks to respond and only just started seriously talking to us about a resolution. Despite this, we are very close to a deal, but we need it signed. I'm very afraid of Caltrans and that what can happen, and if you give it what it wants here today, we will be in a lawsuit and the promises made will disappear. I'm a business person. I understand that there are business interests on both sides here, but my property is irreplaceable and invaluable to my business due to its grandfathered status. As you know, we continue to look for a suitable replacement property as we've been doing for some years, yet we continue to run into the same roadblocks I talked about last time, being denied. To find anything remotely suitable to what we do, we need Caltrans' help. Otherwise, I will have to move a long distance away or pay way too much, which means that our current customer base, which I've had for decades, will be lost or our businesses will no longer be profitable. That's harm to me and to the community as well, because there is no other business like mine in the area now, and over 60 high-paying jobs for employees we have had for decades will be lost unless Caltrans works with us as it's supposed to do. I'm asking you to please consider what has gone on here. This is not a situation in which Caltrans has chosen to locate its project in a manner that will result in the least private harm. Rather, Caltrans has decided to locate its project in location that will get rid of uses that the corridor cities no longer wanted. In other words, they want me to pay the price. It is not fair, but I'm willing to finalize this deal that Caltrans is proposing and that we have proposed if we just can have a little more time and a little more cooperation so that we can have a fighting chance for survival for me, my family, and my employees. Thank you for letting me share that.
Thank you. I'm looking to the Commission if there are questions. I saw Dario Frommer's hand as well as Commissioner Medaffer's hand and Vice Chair Dunn's hand. And Commissioner
I just wanted to hear from Stephen and perhaps Carrie. So the property owner is now saying that they're close to a deal, want an extension on the time before we do this vote on the take. What's your
I just want to clarify the names that were being used are very close, but they're not the same. What the attorney was referring to, he was negotiating with Glenn Mueller, who is the department attorney, not Stephen Mallard, who works for the commission. So just to make sure, I have not been involved in any of the negotiations. I don't know anything about the negotiations.
You're not practicing law without a license, right?
That's
Stephen?
right.
Okay, good.
And as far as I can see, business goodwill is what's really hanging all of these negotiations up, and the only way you're going to resolve that is in front of a judge in a court of law.
Part of our agreement with Caltrans is to defer that for later. In other words, that the settlement will not involve the goodwill aspects.
That's fine. Can I hear from Carrie? Because I'm trying to find out what the objection is to a delay here. Okay. If we're close.
I don't know exactly how close we are, but of course we would continue to negotiate in good faith with the resolution of necessity. We need the resolution of necessity to go forward to list this project and get the project moving forward. We are talking about compensation issues now.
No, I understand that, Carrie, but in terms of the timing, so this is a timing issue, right? Either we do the resolution today, or we say we're going to come back in January and extend this out. So on the logistics here, what we need to do, I understand that we're not going to talk about compensation here.
Okay, yes, we need to get the resolution of necessity so we can move forward to list the project to go to construction.
And so you feel that the 30, more than 30 days, 1 month delay would be harmful to the
I do.
To our listing? Okay. on our schedule.
Okay. And we have several commissioners who have questions and comments to whomever they'd like to direct them. We're going to go to Commissioner Medaffer, then Dunn, then Assemi.
Thank you. And my question is very similar to Commissioner Frommer. I mean, I'll ask this of the project applicants. What do you think a month is going to give you that you don't have right now, that you wouldn't have an hour from now?
So here's the problem. We've been negotiating with Brent Green, who's head of Caltrans right-of-way, and Andy Nierenberg, who's head of Division 7 right-of-way, and their lawyer, Mr. Mueller, who's sitting here. I think that if you ask him, he can come up and tell you that we have reached tentative agreement on all the issues. We're simply waiting for confirmation from Caltrans counsel on legal opinions as to whether certain things that are tentatively agreed can actually be done, and if not, we've also agreed to alternatives in terms of how that would be done if we can't get that happen.
But to me...
So what we're looking for is just, seriously, you asked me, and I'm just saying, about 10 days, I think, is going to result in an executed agreement that they can then put on the agenda, and the necessity would issue by consent, and I think the agreement would be approved.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Mahler, is there anything that you believe, since we cannot talk compensation, and it sounds like that's where this is going, and we're here just to vote on the staff recommendation of the resolution of necessity, is it your opinion that any additional time would change anything with respect to our statutory duties here today?
As far as your commission's duties, more time is not going to solve any problems. By you taking an action at this commission meeting, it will actually put this in a venue where compensation issues can be discussed and come to closure.
Very well. Mr. Chairman, I will move staff's recommendation.
Well, first we need to determine if this is a full take or a part take. So we need the property owners to state clearly and unequivocally, do they want a full take?
Based on what I heard the attorney speak for the property owner, they said they don't want anything, but if it's going to be something, it would be a full take. So my motion would be staff's recommendation.
They have to request a full take. If they don't request a full take, it has to be a partial take. The state can only take as much as is necessary.
If we're going to vote today, do you want a full take or a partial take?
We have already requested that if the vote goes forward today, it's a full take. But if I may respond one thing about the issue of compensation versus necessity, we're not talking about compensation here. We understand the rules of the commission. We are talking about necessity. We demonstrated last time, and I was prepared to again demonstrate this time, that in fact the rules for the adoption of the resolution of necessity have not been met. Caltrans did not fulfill its obligations to determine whether or not the public good and the least public injury were satisfied by this particular configuration versus alternatives that were available. They proposed alternatives to us, and those alternatives were never investigated by Caltrans, and they were never vetted, so there is no basis for the resolution of necessity. And the reason that I would suggest that you move this for 30 days instead of adopting the staff's recommendation is that we will consent to the resolution of necessity and thereby forego any challenge, so that you won't have to worry about whether or not Caltrans complied. They didn't comply, and the one thing that we're trying to avoid here is getting into a court battle that we're forced into doing and spending all that money and all that effort when we can simply resolve this matter, like I said, within, I believe, a week to 10 days, and then we'll be back here, and there'll be a hot knife through butter, and no one will be able to challenge.
We have several more commissioners who would like to speak.
I'm sorry.
And if I just may, then, based on what I've just heard from the applicant and staff, my motion for a full take based on staff's recommendation
There's
stands.
a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
But I still, again, have to reiterate, we cannot do a full take unless the property owner requests a full take.
They just did.
They just did? No, they were kind of saying that they don't really want any takes.
Stephen, the commission heard him say that it would be a full take. But Robert's Rules of Order, let's see if there's a second on the motion, then we can continue comments. Is there a second on the motion?
Mr. Chair, I am prepared to second Mr. Medaffer's motion. The one clarification, however, is everyone who is possibly available to make a decision on this is in this room or available by phone. And if we postponed this for 1 hour and brought it back, we could possibly have this resolved. Mm-hmm. When you have the director of Caltrans sitting right here, this is the highest court right there. And so send folks out into the hall and come up with the language they need to come up with, and if not, I am prepared to support the motion.
Great. I'm going to go to the maker of the motion. Mr. Medaffer, are you comfortable with Vice Chair Dunn's suggestion that the highest court in the world is right here in Malcolm Doherty, and that he and others appropriate on both sides step out with no more than an hour to come back to us? Sir, are you comfortable with that?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, then with the chair's permission, we do have one more speaker card. I'm going to limit any more speakers, should they still want to use that time, to 3 minutes or less. The card says Katrina Diaz. Katrina, thank you. Please come forward, and if you'd like to use that time, we will certainly grant that time. And we appreciate you being here. For the record, why don't you go ahead and state your name again, and when you start, we start.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is Katrina Diaz, and I'm an attorney with Nossman. I represent VCJT LLC's interest, and we're just here today to ensure that there is a full take on the property. It sounds like the parties agreed to a full take, and the plan is to proceed with the full take. My only other comment is that the Commission would vote today on the resolution of necessity and not further delay the vote. Thank you.
Katrina Diaz, you get extra points for taking 27 seconds. And if you need to be a part of that conversation, we'll leave that up to Malcolm Doherty, because he is the highest judicial force in the galaxy, as we learned today. I have 1:49 before 3 p.m. We're going to have people come back, but at first we had one other commissioner who wanted to weigh in. Do you still want to weigh in, or do you want to wait to have this come back?
Commissioner Dunn actually echoed the conversation the points I was going to make.
Okay, and Supreme Court Justice Doherty, you had a comment you wanted to make?
With that newly assumed power, I'm going to delegate to my lawyer unless I'm necessary to go out there, but they will continue to negotiate, and if I'm needed, I will participate.
Great, thank you, Malcolm. And Commissioner Inman.
I'm sorry, may I make one more comment?
You've got 2.5 seconds left, 2.5 minutes left.
I actually don't have authority to negotiate on any type of agreement, so the agreement would just be with one of the property owners and not the other.
Okay. Thank you, Victoria.
Thank you.
Just to clarify, you represent one of the property owners, and that property owner has already agreed to a full take.
Yes.
Correct.
That is correct. Thank you. And with that, Commissioner Inman?
Well, we have heard explicitly, I think, a preference for a full take, but can I just ask our team to make sure that legally whatever paper you have is a complete document?
Andre says yes.
And our executive director said yes, but he's the strong silent type, so you may not have heard him. But he did say yes. With that, please return no later than 2:50, and we will do our best to accommodate wherever we are in our agenda. Or reachable by phone.
We can't negotiate with both parties. Without the other party here, we can't. All due respect, I can't do what you've just directed me to.
The phone lines are working.
The other property owner's client isn't available. She doesn't. They're not available. That's what she came up to say. So.
Well,
one thing I will add is we would need signature parties if that's what you're looking for in the next hour, and Caltrans would be more than willing to try to spend that hour doing that, but it may not be possible to get all signatures on the page. If you move a resolution, we will continue to negotiate to try to land where they described to land. But if we did not get there in an hour, in 5 days, 10 days, we wouldn't have to wait 6 weeks for that to come into play. But we will continue to negotiate to try to reach an amiable resolution or an amiable outcome, even if a resolution were adopted by the city.
I recognize Commissioner Frommer.
Let me suggest a third way, because we've spent a lot of time on this, and I think at the root of this, you have two parties who are owners of this property who are not in sync. That's not our problem. Okay? So here's my suggestion, as an alternative motion to my distinguished colleague's motion, that we move today ahead with the resolution of necessity, with the condition with a condition that Caltrans continue to negotiate for 30 days with your client and with yourself, try to reach a resolution. It'd be the preference of the commission that we reach a resolution and not have to go to litigation. I understand your concern about expense. I understand, obviously, where you're coming from as a property owner and your concerns about your business. That way, we have dispensed with the issue that to keep this on schedule, but we're encouraging and directing Caltrans to keep negotiating. That would be my motion.
There's a motion on the table. Is there a second?
I'm happy to, I'm happy to second that motion, presuming that the maker of the first motion will
I'll withdraw my
withdraw. The issue of having the time of being right here, right now, I would just say, I'm a very practical girl, and for the parties not all to be here, to be able to resolve this thing in one day with the same law firm representing two different lawyers with different parties, it's
Two different law firms.
two different law firms. I thought you said you were from Nossaman also.
I'm from Nossaman, he's not.
Oh, you're not from
No,
Nossaman.
we're from Greenberg Trord.
Okay.
However,
It says Nossaman on here.
well, that's a different, that's
Oh,
from
okay,
her.
okay. Well, notwithstanding, when you have the ability of having a time, as you can already see, the likelihood is, not presuming where my commissioners, my colleagues would vote, we're anxious. We've already continued this once before. This is a very important project to the state of California. We need to move forward. I was very moved by your testimony last meeting in order to allow this to be moved to this date. And again, I would encourage you to get out there today while the people are here today and get on the phone with who you need to get on and have as much done today as you possibly can. But giving you this opportunity, if you're not willing or you can't get authority, I'm ready to go right now because we've got other items on this agenda that we have to get to besides this one. And so it's 1 hour or it's now.
And thank you. So we have a motion and a second. We have comment period. Commissioner Medaffer. Okay, sorry. I thought you were leaning in. Anyone else? Okay.
Echo Commissioner Dunn's comments.
Okay. We have a motion and a second on the floor, so the commission is going to act now. And that doesn't preclude you from going out in the hall, as we said. No, sir. We have a motion and a second on the floor.
Could the maker of the motion restate the motion again? Because I'm
right.
with all due respect to Commissioner Fromer, I'm a little worried about there's a little too much wiggle room in here. And I'm of the mind, with all due respect to your testimony last time and now, I'm ready to vote on the resolution of necessity now. You guys can work things out as you need to work things out, but our task here is simple. Resolution of necessity, yay or nay, and move on. You guys negotiate value and everything else. We don't play that game. So, Mr. Fromer, if you don't mind restating the motion, just so I can make sure I understand it. I want to be able to support it, but I'm also not wanting to see everybody back here again in January.
Yeah, I disagree. I'm not suggesting that people come back. I'm saying we vote today on a resolution of necessity. We also direct Caltrans to continue to negotiate and try to resolve this issue. We don't have to go to litigation. But if they doesn't, and we can put a time period on it, it doesn't have to come back to us. They have the resolution of necessity. We have a vote on it if we have 8 votes today, and they can move forward. Because I think if they're close, I want to encourage everyone to negotiate, but I agree with you, Commissioner Medaffer. I don't want to spend time.
I do
And I
think that if we
again
had
second
the
I'm
hour-
sorry, but this is the California Transportation Commission, and you don't just lean in and start talking unless we recognize you. And we have a motion. I'm going to see if we have
You
that
do.
second
You have a
repeated, and we're
second, yeah.
moving forward. Thank you. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please.
Question, Chair, may I ask a question? So there's not enough parties here to give them 1 hour to resolve this issue today? Is that correct?
They said they cannot, Commissioner.
We say that.
So one of the parties has authority to negotiate, but the other brother's representative does not have the...
That's just on the land.
And he's available.
He's available by phone.
We could do this. That's what
We
we're.
could do this.
We were expecting to walk out here and try and resolve this. and
Do we
come
think
back
we
in
can
an hour.
resolve this in the next hour?
We think so.
I would
Well,
also...
I'm hearing yes and a no.
Excuse me?
Commissioner,
Yeah.
if I may also add, I would like to ask the legal question is, do we need both owners here when one has already requested a full take? I mean,
I don't know what the
Andre, could you
partnership, we
check
don't know what
with
the
our-
partnership,
So that we can, what I'm trying to do is we can still send them out for an hour if we don't need your client here. And that's it. Maybe, Andre, you could enlighten us on that.
I think the issue here really becomes two owners. One has agreed to full take, consented to full take, and we have a second owner who's consenting to a full take, but we don't really have the whole issue resolved. I think we can basically direct the ones that have not reached agreement to go out and reach agreement, because the first owner has already consented to the full take. So I don't think the two are tied as much, if we can say that. At least that's kind of my understanding.
Excuse me. They still have to negotiate dollars. They may have agreement. that
We're
they
not
want the full
negotiating
take.
dollars.
I understand
Right.
you are not. That's what you're asking me to do.
Mr. Chair.
Carl?
You have
Yes.
The dilemma we have is, I want to try to reach an amiable resolution if we can. Even if we came to a agreement in the next hour, we would not have a signed contract because not all parties are here. With that said, I would still be asking for a resolution of necessity so we didn't slow down the construction project today. If you pass a resolution, we will commit to try to reach an amiable solution with all parties. Even if we did that in the next hour, we would not have all signatures of all the parties today, and because we would not want to delay the project, I would still be asking you for a resolution. But we will commit, if you pass a resolution, to continue work with all parties to try to land this amiably.
Then I call for the question. Mr. Chairman, I just call for the question.
Commissioner Dunn's call for
Vice Chair Dunn, thank you for calling for the question. With that, all those in favor of the resolution of necessity as made through the motion by Commissioner Fromer and seconded by Vice Chair Dunn.
We would need a roll call, please.
We will do a roll call then. Thank you for the reminder, Stephen. Douglas?
Commissioner Alvarado? Commissioner Semi?
Yes.
Commissioner Burke? Commissioner Dunn?
Yes.
Commissioner Arp? Yes. Commissioner Fromer?
Yes.
Commissioner Gilmetti? Commissioner Inman? Yes. Commissioner Madaffer?
Yes.
Commissioner Tavoloni?
Yes.
Chair Gardino?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, great. We want to encourage you to continue your conversation, but the resolution of necessity is passed for a full take. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We're moving on to item number 4, the approval of minutes from our October 8, 2014 meeting. I know this is more controversial than a resolution of necessity, but I'm still looking for a motion of approval of the minutes. Okay. Okay, so I think that was moved by Commissioner Assemi and seconded by Commissioner Fromer. All those in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? That passes. Executive Director's report, Andre Boutros.
I have nothing to report, Mr. Chair, so I'm going to save the time for your remainder of the agenda. Thank you.
Thank you, Andre. Commission reports. Any commissioners wishing to make a report? Vice Chair Dunn.
Just a quick report to share that I participated in the ribbon cutting for the Anaheim Regional Transportation Intermodal Center this week. It is, I'm proud to say, Anaheim's new train station, but also the very first high-speed rail station in the state of California. And so it was very nice to be part of that ribbon cutting. It's a beautiful station, and I hope that the Commission will get an opportunity when they visit Orange County in the spring to come and tour that facility. It's quite remarkable. Thank you.
We're going to be riding it from Fresno to
Fresno. The
Orange
ground,
County.
according to Dan Richard, the groundbreaking for high-speed rail will be this summer in the Central Valley.
Thank you. Any other commission reports? Seeing none, item number 7 is the Commissioners for Compensation. This is an action item. Is motion by Commissioner Taglioni, seconded by Vice Chair Dunn. All those in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? That passes unanimously. Item 8, report by agency secretary and/or deputy secretary. I see Deputy Secretary Brian Annis present. Brian, welcome.
Good afternoon. Thank you. Let me join the chorus of congratulations for Andre. First of all, he mentioned taking a fork in the road here, and I'm sure as he travels the state in the future, as he takes those forks in the road, he'll see many projects that he really had an important impact on, and I hope you take justifiable pride in knowing that you've performed a great service over many years, Andre. And I look forward to meeting the new guy. I think his name's Will Kimpton, is it? Yes. Say some nice things about Will in January. The other item I wanted to report to the Commission was that the California Transportation Agency last week released discussion draft guidelines for the Transit and Intercity Rail Capital Program. This is one of the programs funded with cap and trade proceeds. Ongoing, this program will receive 10% of cap and trade auction proceeds, and we'll get to see in February and May obtain a better idea of what the amount of money might be for that program. But this is a program that's focused on capital improvements and operational investments to modernize and integrate California's transit and rail system. And under the process in law, the Transportation Agency is working with, fortunately, we've had some help from CTC staff, other administration, stakeholders, and now public stakeholders on the drafting of this legislation. This will ultimately come together in a program of projects forwarded by the Transportation Agency to the CTC, and the CTC then will have the responsibility for allocating the projects when they're ready and perform that important transparency and oversight role for the projects. So we look forward to coming back in January and talking a little more specifically about the program, which we think at that time will be in a more of a final guideline stage. And that concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there questions for Undersecretary Annis? Seeing none, we will move forward with item 9. Malcolm Doherty.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Let me begin by congratulating Will Kempton. I can only imagine good times are ahead, and I can't imagine a better scenario than working with somebody who may know my job better than I do. But congratulations to Will. I'll close out my comments with a comment to your outgoing executive, or your chair, or your executive director. I see that there's a PowerPoint queued up to talk about the 91 corridor. I had the fortune of touring the project earlier today prior to this meeting, and I want to thank RCTC and Ann Mayer, as well as Dave Thomas and John Tarasio for giving us a tour, and the progress on that project is impressive, and I will defer to the presentation that's going to come up. I don't think I've had the opportunity to introduce Kome Ajize as the Chief Deputy for Caltrans in this forum, and he's in the audience. If you can at least wave, Kome, stand up, and congratulations to Kome. He's been in the chair for a few weeks, but I don't think I've had that fortune to introduce him here. Bill Figge is also here. Bill Figge is backfilling for, there's Bill Figge from District 11 in San Diego. He's backfilling for Kome in his acting capacity, so I wanted to thank Bill Figge. And of course, I can't thank Norma Ortega and Stephen Keck enough for filling their roles that they played in the interim, so thank you very much. I want to give you a brief update on the Low Carbon Transit Operation Program, which we are working with the California Air Resources Board. So low carbon program is one of several programs that is part of the Transit, Affordable Housing, and Sustainable Communities program established by the legislature in Senate Bill 862 in 2014. It's a program created to provide operating and capital assistance for transit agencies to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and improve mobility. And in fiscal year 14-15, the budget appropriation is $25 million to the low carbon program from Greenhouse Gas Reduction Fund established by AB 32. Eligible recipients of these funds are the approximately 185 transit agencies statewide, and these funds will be allocated based on formula determined by population as well as fare box revenues. Eligible transportation agencies have been notified of their share of the available funds on December 1st, and will provide interim guidelines by December 14th, and then the recipient agencies will have till February 1st to submit expenditure proposals to us, which we will review with the Air Resources Board for compliance and with SB 862. And then by April 1st, Caltrans will submit the final list of the approved expenditures to the State Controller's Office. So I just wanted to provide an update on that. There are several notable projects. We continue to deliver projects around the state. I will echo Commissioner Dunn's congratulatory comments about the Arctic project, but we've also opened up an expressway in the Fresno area, Bradley Overpass on Route 140, Riego Road on 99 north of Sacramento County, and we also on that same day dedicated that interchange to former Caltrans employee Dean Patton, who was killed in a motorcycle accident at that very intersection. We've also cut the ribbon on the Prunedale Improvement Project, the West County connectors, the 405, 605 in Orange County, the I-5 truck lanes in District 7. These are just a sampling of all the projects that we've been cutting ribbons on and continue to deliver out in construction. We also, at the last AASHTO meeting, the American Association of State Highway and Transportation Officials, I received a recognition by AASHTO, AAA, and the U.S. Chamber of Commerce when they announced the Grand Prize and People Choice Award for the 2014 America's Transportation Award competition. In that, each of the different regions, the Northeast, the South, the Midwest, and the West, each had 10 finalists. There were 10 national finalists, and a grand prize and a People's Choice Award was announced at that. And the San Francisco-Oakland Bay Bridge East Span was the grand prize winner. And as it was articulated by Bud Wright, the AASHTO Executive Director, these were the 10 best of the best projects. And again, the department and the Bay Bridge, the new East Span, was awarded the grand prize. Now, the best news about this is not only the additional recognition for that incredible project, but it came with a $10,000 cash prize that will go to the California Transportation Foundation. And I'd like to invite Ann Mayer as a representative for the California Transportation Foundation to come up so I can give her this big paper check that I brought back from Charlotte, North Carolina with me. But congratulations to the California Transportation Foundation.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. We'll take it. Congratulations to Caltrans.
Thank you very much. We'll take that when you get through.
It's mine.
So in closing, I've expressed my appreciation to your Executive Director, Andre Boutros, previously, but one thing that I would like to do is a tradition that was started by our different military branches in presenting a challenge coin to someone in recognition of special achievement and dedication. I have a Caltrans challenge coin here that I'd like to present to Andre Boutros, and it has the Caltrans symbol on it. It has the newly minted mission statement on the front side, and it has on the back side a list of each of our 5 newly identified goals for the department. And I'd like to present this to Andre Boutros as a token of our appreciation. And I want to remind everybody that we trained him, and then he went over to the CTF, and he's been trying to train us ever since. But it's been a pleasure to work with Andre, and I wanted to provide him with this challenge coin and wish him the best in his retirement. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Malcolm, thank you. Any questions for our director of Caltrans? Seeing none, we will move on with our welcome to the region. Ann Meyer.
Good afternoon, Commissioners, and thank you very much. Up until a few minutes ago, our chairman, Supervisor Marion Ashley, was in the audience and was planning on welcoming you. He had to go to another meeting, so he sends his regards and welcomes you to Riverside County. I do think I have a couple of commissioners in the room, Councilman Ben Benoit from the city of Wildemar and Steve Hernandez from the city of Coachella. So thanks to the two RCTC commissioners who are here in the audience. I know you're a little bit behind schedule, so I'd like to quickly run through our key project. Malcolm already talked about it this morning. We've got a lot of exciting work going on here in Riverside County. $2 billion under construction within 20 miles of this building. And we've got a lot going on. We've got a couple of CMIA projects going on. We have a joint project with Sandbag. We have our Paris Valley Line 24-mile Metrolink extension. But the big one is the 91 Corridor Improvement Project, and the progress made to date is really pretty astounding. So I wanted to run through a little bit of the history on that project with you right now. You already know this is one of the nation's worst commutes. We've got 280,000 cars a day now running through that corridor, and we've got to construct this $1.4 billion project with all of those cars still on the road. It's a bit of a challenge, but it's one we're really excited to face. We've got over 16,000 jobs created. And what's really exciting about this is that this is our first tolled express lane project in Riverside County. We have another one coming on I-15, but we think this is really going to make a difference in how people in Riverside County travel. Time savings on this project are significant, and that's one of the main reasons why we've focused on this improvement. Wanted to highlight this project, and our chairman was here and our board members were here for the resolution of necessity. We've done a lot of resolutions of necessity on the 91 project. We have 199 total parcels, over 241 separate interests, 50 different parcel groups, and that means 50 different right-of-way certifications. As of today, 85% of all of those parcels have been delivered, virtually all of them ahead of schedule or on time. By January 20th, 97% of all parcels will be delivered on this project. This was one of the single biggest risks facing this challenging design-build schedule, and I really wanted to express my appreciation to Bassem Mualim, Brent Green, and Carla Sutliff and their staff for their personal engagement and their partnership in helping to make sure that this happened. This is a huge accomplishment. You were all here last year for the ribbon cutting on the project. We've been underway for a while with a lot of the key design work completed in the first 9 months of the project. Heavy construction started in July, and we are opening those lanes to traffic on January 9th of 2017. Guaranteed. We're building 11 new bridges, 21 existing bridges. Look at some of the numbers here. This is a staggering project, but as I mentioned, if you drive through there today, you're really not going to see just how much work is being done. It's really the work that's being done underneath the structures that's really impressive. The project is being built in 3 big stages, each about 10 months long. There's so many structures and so many changes in the staging here. We really need to hit all of the targets for each of those stages. Right now, we're focusing on the work at the 1591 interchange and also down at the Green River 91 interchange area. The BNSF Railroad, this is the rail system that runs in and out of the ports of LA and Long Beach and goes to the rest of the country. The BNSF crosses our project 4 times in this 8-9 mile stretch. Our partnership with BNSF has been essential. We have had to get major construction done before the 4th quarter shutdown, and BNSF has been a terrific partner, and we hit all of our milestones before the shutdown. I'll show you a few pictures here. You can see where the train goes through. We call this the false work tunnel. So we had to get all of this false work done and this tunnel built in order to maintain all rail traffic through here so that we could continue with the structure construction. Not only is this the corridor where BNSF runs, this is also our Metrolink corridor as well. It's a vital rail backbone system for us in trying to get all of this work done. Maintaining traffic on the freeway as well as maintaining all the rail traffic has been a bit of a challenge, but the team is certainly up to it. Again, this is another picture north of the 91, looking northwest. It's some false work. This is on the south side. We have a lot of clearing and grubbing that's been done to make way for various utilities, structures, and frontage roads, et cetera, and the pictures really don't do it justice. This is another view of that railroad tunnel from afar, as well as some of the other construction work. A little bit of a closer view there. We are working double and at times will be triple shifts and trying to make sure the schedule is met. Another picture of some of the false work construction. This is Interstate 15. We also have a couple miles of work here. We're getting ready to start paving on Interstate 15 as well. We have a lot of right-of-way, as I mentioned. We are relocating businesses. We're cutting and refacing buildings, doing some mitigation work. All that is actively going on along the corridor as well. We had a mobile home park. We moved about 100 senior citizens out of the mobile home park into other housing that went very successful. Again, the right-of-way aspect of this project is very significant. A little more work here. We are also impacting the trailhead of the Santa Ana River Trail. We're building some new parking facilities as well as some drinking fountains and some other things, Mr. Gardino, so the next time you can bring your bike and go for a bit of a spin. We also crossed the BNSF down by Green River, another significant structure. You can see the false work there in the background. This is another view of it. So that was a quick run through of the project, and just in case you worry that we're working too hard, Commissioner Tavallone and his team, I regret to say, beat us again in this year's WTS fundraiser. We raised over $20,000 for scholarships for the WTS Inland Empire chapter to hand out, and he wins every year. And I don't know how it happens. He's not even cheating anymore.
I'll be back next year. They won't win next year.
Malcolm will be back. Malcolm wasn't there this year, but the other 2 years. So Malcolm, Ray Wolf, and I are all on the other team, and Joe beats us every year. So anyway, I just had to point out that he won again. And in closing, we're really proud of all of the work that we're doing here in Riverside County. There's so much that's underway and so much more to come. And as I look at these projects and these programs, it's very clear that none of this happens without partnership, and it's that partnership and the commitment of individuals that make it happen. Mr. Boutros, and he knew this was coming. You played an important part of each and every one of these projects. If I look at them, you were there at the table, either helping us figure out the funding plan, helping us make sure we got design build. You were there for all of them. So I wanted to thank you for everything that you have done. On behalf of my staff, on behalf of Riverside County, and on behalf of my own very self, thank you for being my friend and for always being there when it mattered the most. Thank you. Congratulations. Great job. Well, Commissioners, happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Ann Meyer?
Yes, sir.
You know that the way we won was honest and up and above board, correct?
I do, sir.
And you know that we took whatever team you left us with. We didn't pick people. We didn't say we're going to take this one or that one.
I know.
Although we had lunch and we discussed all of this, we did everything the way we're supposed to do.
We did.
And we won.
And you won.
But you're not
Again.
happy.
No, I'm not happy.
But we have another year.
We have another year.
I'll pick the team.
Yes, sir.
And I will keep my team.
Okay.
So I just want everybody to know this so that when we have that meeting, there's no mistakes.
Correct.
Okay. Now, a serious note. I would like to thank you and your team for everything you've done for the Inland Empire on all of the projects that we have going here today, whether it's $1 or $5 billion. I really don't, and I think I know you, and I think I know most of your staff, how you get all of this done. Of course, I do know a little bit about how you get it done because you're on the midnight flight to Washington or New York or checking bonds here and checking bonds there. If we ask you to maybe help us find some of that money that you find, is it possible that you would help us do that?
I'm not sharing at all.
That's no different than her being here than being on the baseball field. They all they want to do is win, and they haven't been able to do that yet. But On a serious note, thank you so very much for
You're welcome.
everything you do for the Inland Empire, and we certainly appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, and Meyer, thank you. I had inadvertently skipped over item 10. How could I have possibly done that? Report from the from the U.S.
Oh,
Department.
that's not going to cost you at all. So in light of your little behind schedule, I'm going to take my time. So Andre, no. We're right on the cusp of an omnibus bill being passed. That's the appropriations where we talked about authorization tells us what we can do. Appropriation says really this is the money you can spend. There's an appropriations proposal that's on the table right now. I think the House is supposed to be voting on it tomorrow and the Senate on Friday. Little bit of a nuance there because our appropriations ends tomorrow on the 11th. So it looks like they'll probably end up doing a 1 or 2 dayer so they can get through the appropriate channels. But that extends us through the rest of the fiscal year. I think Homeland Security is the only one that didn't. That's to the end of February. That's appropriations. Our authorization, which is the MAP 21 extension, only goes to the end of May. So we still are in need of long-term highway transportation legislation. So that's kind of the lay of the land there. A couple of facts on that. The omnibus bill does have an extension of Tiger, so it looks like a 7th round of the Tiger program will be coming. It's a little bit of less money, $500 million this time. There's a couple things without going through everything. I know there's in the bill, or in the proposal, there's 2 or 3 new starts. I think that might affect California in there, so you might want to take a look at that. So that's where we're at with that. Hopefully that all gets passed and that gets us through the end of the fiscal year with the funding. And again, our long-term legislation still isn't there because that's just till the end of May. Real quick on a couple of the other things, congratulations to everybody in this circle on the direction where they're going with the DBE program, the Disadvantaged Business Enterprise program. I think we're not where we want to be in the end, but we are so far down the road from where we were. And Malcolm, I want to again extend my congratulations to Angela and your team. There's a lot of people working on that, and the local unit also is working on that. You're at almost 12% right now. The goal is 12.5%. Back in 2009, when I first got here, we were reaching that 1%. So there's a lot of effort that's gone into that. A lot of data. I really appreciate the fact that there's a lot of attention to data. So it's real issues and real discussion, not anecdotal. And I think that's where you're going to get, it's going to be that same thing in the safety area as you get better with the data, and that's something we're trying to work with Malcolm and the Secretary's office on getting better with the safety data. It's going to help in a lot of the decision making on how we go. Congratulations also with Norma and Stephen Keck and their team with the inactive obligations. That's still under 2%, and that's again carrying the country. We appreciate that effort. Projects of regional and national significance. You were requesting that we could get a California thing. Malcolm just got something from our associate administrator of so one of our associate administrators in headquarters, and we'll get that sent over to you. That gives you the list of what's happening in California that went up, and that was that one that was part of MAP 21, but wasn't funded through appropriations. I'm not sure that it's funded through this appropriations either, but hopefully we're using that with the Freight National Network and a lot of those types of things. Last thing I want to always mention is, I say this every time, so it's kind of talking to everybody in the group here, is tribal outreach. I think that's something that's so important. You're going to talk on a project here a little bit later that had there's a lot of action and interaction with tribes in Northern California. And we're looking to see, and again, I appreciate the steps that Caltrans and the Secretary's office are making to bring tribes in. We're looking for the outreach. The outreach should be done early. If you hand the tribes something to comment on, you're already behind. You need to bring the tribes in as you develop it. And I think that's with the projects and all of what you're doing through the environmental process. You've got to reach out to the tribes in California. We've got 109 or 111, like I said, depending on which day you're talking to me. And it's possibly that based on some criteria that may go up considerably. And it is so important to bring the tribes in And again, bring them in the decision, not comment on the decision. We're looking to try and get them rolled into the whole process. And I appreciate the steps that have gone. We're not anywhere where we need to be there either, but there's a lot of direction that's going on that. So we appreciate that. And lastly, I want to thank Caltrans for helping host our Everyday Count Summit that we had a couple months ago. I think we had that a couple months ago. I'll go with a couple months ago. In October, all right, a month and a half ago. We had people from all over the West come out, and we're looking at our Everyday Counts initiatives. It was a great couple days there. I appreciate Malcolm being a guest speaker at one of the luncheons that we had. There's several things that I want to try and encourage people to take a look at with our Everyday Counts. It's an initiative that Federal Highway has. It's Everyday Counts 3. If we go to the Federal Highway website, you can link it to it very easily, and there's a lot of very real things that can happen and you can do and implement immediately. And I think that's very important to realize that there is some opportunity there. Data-driven analysis, smart work zones, e-constructions, e-NEPA. So there's a lot of stuff in there that I think can be helpful in a lot of different areas. And I think we're going to continue to look for Everyday Counts to continue. Like I'm looking for an Everyday Counts 4 in the next year and a half or so. So I think that's all I got. Congratulations, Andre. Obviously, you're dropping, you're already out the door by not stopping him and telling him I was next. So watch him. He's already dropping the ball. He's not, he's not on his game. Normally he'd go, no, Vince is next. I'm not a big fan of the next guy you guys picked, but I mean, I'll work with him if I have to. I'm just saying, he's a Niner fan, so we've had issues in the past, but we're going to try and overcome those issues because I'm a giver. So I'll be giving you a lot of something. But anyway, that's all I have. Does anybody have any questions for me or comments? Thank you, Mr. Medaffer. And we'll be sending a lot of funding right down to San Diego then.
I was just applauding that you were finished. So.
That's right. And now that funding is now being moved up to Northern California.
Yes, there it is. Vincent, thank you. It's always a pleasure to have you with us. Andre's suggestion was actually that we place you at the end of the agenda, just because we like to save the best for last.
That's a beautiful lie. That is just a wonderful lie.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you. Any questions for Vincent Mamano? Thank you, sir.
There you have it.
Always a pleasure. We're going to move on to item number 12, our regional agency's moderator, Renee. Renee, welcome.
Always a hard act to follow. Good afternoon, Renee DeVere-Oki, Sacramento Area Council Governments, here on behalf of the RTPA group today. I wanted to start off by acknowledging Andre and congratulating him on his retirement. Earlier, we gave you a certificate of recognition acknowledging all your service over the years. So thank you and wish you well in your new adventure into retirement. Also wanted to congratulate Will on your new appointment, and then also Susan, so office hours and different months with different people. So our group gathered yesterday, a full agenda. There is a lot happening. 5 guidelines that I can count. I call it the alphabet soup of what's happening. So you've got the 2016 STIP guidelines, Cycle 2 ATP, AHSC, otherwise known as Affordable Housing and Sustainable Community Programs, LC TOP, which was covered earlier, so our low carbon transit, and then also our transit intercity and rail capital improvement program, so that one's a mouthful. So many of us are engaged in tracking these and providing comments as we go, and we're also looking at our regions and trying to figure out what the best approach is for selecting projects to compete in these programs or putting forward our best regional foot forward. I also wanted to thank staff for the continued work on the ATP guidelines, and we're encouraged by the continued refinement from Cycle 1 as we apply lessons learned to Cycle 2. On the STIP guidelines, we're happy to continue the encouraging dialogue that we have, looking for increasing transparency and doing our part on that, and also looking at how we can continue to connect the RTIPs that we're putting forward together with our regional transportation plans that we do with quite a bit of work looking at our sustainable community strategies. So finally, we look forward to the work ahead, starting with the road usage charge, especially with the first step today as you put together your technical advisory committee. So with that, I'll take any questions if you have any.
Any questions for Renee DeVere-Oki? Renee, thanks for coming down and joining us. We are moving on to item 13, our Rural Counties Task Force Chair, Jerry Barton. Jerry, good to see you in adult clothing instead of our sweaty workout clothing of this morning.
Yes, indeed. Good afternoon, Commissioners. Of course, I'd like to just begin by congratulating Executive Director Boutros, and thank you for your service to the state. And on behalf of the rural counties, we appreciate and have enjoyed working with you. Especially in our own county, we appreciate that you were helpful in our ability to obtain CMIA savings to build that very important interchange on-ramp. So. We've been following a number of items as well, and the Transit Intercity Rail Program is one of those. We remain concerned about the disadvantaged community requirements of that program, and we hope that the selection process will be flexible enough to allow for the funding of projects that are not located in disadvantaged communities once the required 25% threshold is met. With regard to the Low Carbon Transit Operations Program, El Dorado County, my county, received just over $57,000 in that funding, and the majority of the RCTF counties received much less. So we definitely see that as seed money to try to develop a project, but we are hopeful that the program will allow the ability to roll annual allocations so that agencies can accumulate a sizable amount of funding to develop a project worthwhile. On behalf of the rural counties, I submitted a comment letter on the preliminary draft discussion guidelines for SB 743 and the proposed changes to CEQA. We encourage that OPR consider the development of rural area case studies to carefully analyze the applicability of the proposed vehicle miles traveled metric, specifically in rural areas. And we also request that OPR include flexibility in the guidelines to allow for lead agencies to optionally select VMT analysis as appropriate for those specific project types. We're also following the SIP guidelines update process, and we have some concerns about performance measures. We held a workshop in November and discussed our concerns. And at that workshop, we were able to identify some of the more challenging performance metrics and data limitations and concerns that rural agencies have. We have decided to immediately move forward with a project to utilize the 9 performance indicators developed in the recently completed SANDAG document and determine their applicability for implementation in rural and small urban settings. If we identify a performance indicator that doesn't work, we intend to look at proposing a different measure that will work. And we'll move forward with that quickly in the hopes that that can be incorporated in the next SIP cycle. Back in October, I mentioned that we are working on a rural county streets and roads needs assessment. I understand you're going to have a presentation at the January meeting regarding the statewide needs assessment. So this is a rural-specific report, and it outlines some significant statistics related to pavement management in the rural areas. We learned that the 26 RCTF member counties own and maintain over 24,000 centerline miles, as well as 5,000 centerline miles of unpaved roads. And the rural areas actually cover 41.5% of the state's land area, and 5.6% of the state's population resides there. The average pavement condition index for rural counties is only 58, which is significantly lower than the statewide average of 66. And hopefully there will be an opportunity to provide a specific presentation to you on that document in the future. But we also learned that it would require $9.8 billion over the next 20 years to make all the necessary repairs to bring the local road condition to what is considered best management practices. So obviously some extreme funding needs there. And again, hoping for a presentation on that specific item in the future. We are actively involved in discussions about ATP Cycle 2 and hope that we can be competitive in this next round. We're supportive of an enhanced and defined role for RTPAs in the Cycle 2 selection of the projects. So with that, that's all I have to report on at this time. If there are any questions, I'd be happy to take them.
Any questions for Jerry Barton? Jerry, thank you. We're moving on to item 14, Self-Help Counties Coalition Chair. You do not even look like Keith Dunn.
I am not Keith Dunn or Diane Steinhauser. My name is Suzanne Smith. I'm a past chair of Self-Help Counties and pinch hitting for my colleagues who could not be here today. Nice to see you all. The Self-Help Counties Coalition hosted the Focus on the Future conference last month. Thank you to those commissioners who were able to attend, and to your staff and the department staff who were there as well. It's always important for our partners to be a key part of that conference. We also met as a board of directors of Self-Help Counties Coalition in November, where we discussed a number of legislative and policy issues, starting to gear up for the next legislative session and tracking transportation-related bills. But a couple of issues that we are specifically engaged in and want to continue to be so with the department and the agency involve the road user charge, the guidelines for managed lanes, as well as our ongoing discussion with project delivery with the department. I want to congratulate Will Kimpton in his new position. Look forward to the founder of the Self-Help Counties Coalition being your new executive director. But it is a sad day for us as well, because Andre's been a true gentleman to work with. He's been a great partner to the Self-Help Counties. Personally, going to miss you dearly, and really appreciate all your hard work, and best wishes to you and your wife.
Well said.
Right.
Well
Thank
said.
you.
Suzanne, thank you. Before you go away, any questions of Suzanne? Comments? Thank you for your leadership. Item 15, state and federal legislative matters. Carrie?
Commissioners, agenda item number 15 is pink, and you should have it in your packet. It is an informational item. The state legislature convened on December 1st for an organizational session and will return from winter recess on January 5th to begin the first year of a 2-year session. Attachment A of your book item is a tentative legislative calendar for 2015. Assembly Speaker Atkins announced committee chair appointments for the 15-16 regular session. Assembly Member Jim Frazier was appointed chair of the Assembly Transportation Committee. The Senate Pro Tem has not announced committee chair appointments. Staff will provide a complete list of Senate and Assembly Transportation Committee membership at the January Commission meeting. That concludes my report.
Carrie, thank you. Any questions of Carrie? Moving on. Item 17, Interregional Transportation Strategic Plan Update. I'm getting a nudge because I skipped 16. To Budget and Allocation Capacity Update. Laurel and Stephen. Stephen, welcome. Nice to see you.
Thank you. I'm just going to see how that's done. I'm going to talk about Vince a little later on, so I won't tease him too much now. But I'm going to start my presentation. Good afternoon, Chair and Commissioner. Stephen Keck with Caltrans. I'm going to start my presentation with the traditional look at allocation capacity and where we are for the year. We've allocated just about $600 million through October towards projects, and this was out of a capacity of about $3.6 billion. We still have about $3 billion to go, which is not unusual at this point in the year. All the programs are looking pretty good. There's no problems yet, although I will point out that the traffic congestion relief program is fully allocated already, which is common for that program. We usually do all the allocations at the beginning of the year. I've got some good news. Earlier on, we talked about early loan repayments. We had about $350 million worth of loan repayments that were originally scheduled for as late as 2021 were included in this year's Budget Act to be repaid early. And we accounted for that, and we did a fund estimate to bring these funds forward. But of particular interest to local agencies, those funds, those repayments were scheduled to be repaid at the end of this fiscal year in June, and in fact the cash repayment came in August. So quite a bit earlier than we expected, and a boon to us as well as local agencies. I'm not going to go into detail, but on the presentation is the breakdown of where those funds go. Believe it or not, Vince and I always compare notes before each commission meeting to make sure we're saying the same thing. In this case, it was doubly important because so much action has happened just last night. I'm not going to go through the slide I had prepared because, of course, it's out of date now. And Vince has given you all the information and was pretty much correct on everything. The one point that I want to reiterate, though, is that cash-wise, as Vince said, we have cash now through the end of the federal fiscal year, but the federal authorization for the program, MAP 21, only goes through May 31st, and we're still in need of a long-term funding bill, which leads me to this next slide, which I actually stole from the Congressional Budget Office, which is by far the best place to get information of this rather significant nature. The Congressional Budget Office has projected out, this is to 2024, so 10 years out into the future, what the Federal Highway Trust Fund would look like if the Federal Highway Trust Fund could run a deficit. Now, they're not allowed to by law, but if they were, you see this end-of-year shortfall over the next 10 years adds up to about $120 billion nationwide. There's only two ways to avoid this problem. Increase the funds that go into the account, either through higher taxes or continued general fund transfers, or reduce spending. I know which one I would prefer. I would prefer, of course, increased taxes or continued revenue transfers. But there's been a change in the leadership at the federal level. We don't know which way they're going to go. There's no way to know which way they're going to go. But that's a very big shortfall. I really don't know what to say about it other than to warn everybody that this is coming. It's been coming for a while. We've had these discussions before. In the last 5 years, I think there's been about an average of $10 billion a year in bailouts, in general fund transfers. So if you're looking at that kind of $10 to $11 to $12 billion a year deficit, that's a very big hill to climb and something we need to get around. I know the Commission has urged the feds to increase taxes. I know local agencies have done the same. I think the department is on board with that absolutely at the federal level. But without that, there will be severe cuts in what we're allowed to spend, which of course will curtail the size of the shop mostly in this state, whose number one priority, of course, is the safety of the highway system. I just wanted to also to leave you with sort of some upcoming events. Obviously, House Resolution or the continuing resolution expiring tomorrow. It still will expire. They may have a stopgap funding bill in place, and then, of course, a longer funding bill we hope will be signed or passed and signed later on. At the January meeting, we're going to kick off the STIP fund estimate. And Laura wanted me to mention that we're also going to bring forward a draft ATP fund estimate specifically for that program in January. The governor's budget will be released on January 10th, although sometimes Governor Brown is fond of bringing it forward a day or two early, so maybe we'll be surprised with that. April 2015, everybody's favorite chart, Chart C, will be released. Chart C is that great big huge chart that visually shows the expenditures from the governor's budget for highway transportation. So that'll be out in April, and then of course in May, as we already talked about, MAP 21, the current extension of MAP 21 expires. So with that, I'll end my presentation and take any questions.
Excellent. Or do we have questions of Mr. Keck? Yes, Vice Chair Dunn.
Thank you, Stephen. Just curious, do you have we're already over the fiscal cliff, obviously, we're on revenue. Do you have a written plan, sort of like a plan that takes care of what are our steps that we're going to do in light of the doomsday scenario that you've presented here without funding? What gets hit first? What's the schedule? In other words, sometimes when it's in writing like that, it's so much more compelling a story than just us screaming all the time, our hair's on fire, we need more money. But what actually, what's your short range, mid-range strategy for eliminating projects?
So in writing, I won't say that there is such a plan. Certainly what is not out there yet is what the feds intend to do. Mm-hmm. We're looking at this revenue shortfall that's been in place now for, they show it on the CBO shows it even going back 10 years or more.
Yeah.
The feds have so far taken action to fill that hole every year. We don't know what the new federal authorization will show. And until that time, I don't want to go out there and say, this is what we're going to hack and slash, and this is how we're going to deal with that, because we don't even know what the shortfall might be.
So we always are just waiting for the feds to do something. So we show this stuff, but then they'll do something magical before the end date. But when you marry that to the state shortfall, then it becomes kind of an interesting study for what we cut, what we don't cut.
Certainly.
I'm just trying to plan
right.
mid-range and.
Sure, and we can address that. I can come back in January with maybe a short list of what we might prioritize over other items.
Be kind of an interesting discussion.
Absolutely.
Thanks.
Other questions for Stephen Keck, Commissioner Medaffer, and Commissioner Inman?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And thank you, as always, that one chart is definitely the doomsday chart, and it's real. Two questions, and I follow this closely. Obviously, I know the gas tax last raised in '94 federally is worth about half of what it is today, and that's on the federal side. To what extent does your department provide this information, especially that last chart, to members of the legislature?
So that's a great question. In fact, in last year's budget hearings, I gave a presentation to them specifically on the amount of tax that's lost to inflation. In particular, at that point, I think we had lost about 50% of the value of the tax, and it's actually gone down from there because of inflation over the last 6 months. So we do present that to the budget committees when the question comes up, and it certainly did last year. Interestingly, what they asked us was what we were doing about it. Thank you. Well, somebody laughed, which is, of course, not our role. We don't set tax rates. What we did mention, of course, is that we were pursuing administratively at the time a look into road usage charging. And, of course, SB 1077 has come along since then.
Well, and I just would add the comment to Mr. Chair and to fellow commissioners that, you know, granted, something is going to have to change, maybe the road usage charge, but that's perhaps 5 to 10 years away. And as I look on that chart, things are going to get really bad before then. And I think it's just important that, we should see some kind of a strategy. And if anything, I don't know to the extent that the department would be communicating, say, with Assemblymember Frazier and others, but as we go forward in the beginning of this year, it might not be a bad idea to have, or at least encourage some special hearings or something just on this topic to call attention to it. I know myself, along with a couple of the other commissioners, plan on meeting with the new President Pro Tem. We've already met with the Speaker. We also plan on getting the Speaker, the Pro Tem, and the two committee chairs together. We will do it from our perspective, at least have this discussion, but it's important that the department arm our legislators with the sad and true facts of how woefully underfunded you can't even maintain the system we have, let alone add on to the things so we can improve mobility, improve access, improve transit, improve bikeability, and all of the things that we need to be doing. It's very alarming.
Thank you. Commissioner Medaffer, thank you. Commissioner Inman?
Stephen, I have a question. I'm not sure you're the exact person to be asking it, but in November, the Federal Aviation Administration issued a policy document relating to aviation fuels and specifically how they were used. So amongst you and your colleagues, can you make sure that we're dotting all our I's and crossing all our T's in terms of that? That was issued in November.
Certainly I can. And would you like me to follow up at the next meeting on the impacts, or just whether we are tracking that and make sure we have our 2 cents?
I believe they were trying to clarify and make sure that we were using those funds specifically as we should be. So there was nothing in the register specific to California, but I just want to make sure that we are in compliance. And
okay, I'll get back to you at the next meeting.
Seeing other questions, thank you, Stephen.
Thank you.
We're going to go to both our information calendar and our consent calendar because we're losing at least one commissioner at 3 o'clock. The information calendar is 22 through 37. The consent calendar is 38 through 60. First, is there anything, Stephen Mahler, that you'd like to say about either?
On the information calendar, just state that the agenda items, as you state, are 23 through 37. Our information reports deemed by staff not to raise any issues. Individual reports will not be presented unless requested specifically by a commissioner.
Are there any requests on 23 through 37? Seeing none, 38 through 60?
Yes, Commissioners, the next agenda item, 22 agenda items, 38 through 59 are consent items. The following changes need to be identified. Tab 44, approval of projects for future consideration of funding. In the book item, the county should be Butte, not Sacramento. And under tab 49, you have pinks for the resolutions of necessity. With that, staff recommends that you approve the consent calendar.
There's a motion by Commissioner Taglioni, a second by Commissioner Medaffer with the changes noted by staff on items 44 and 49. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? And that passes unanimously. Thank you, Stephen. We're moving on to Interregional Transportation Strategic Plan update. Carrie?
Commissioners, agenda item 17 is an informational item. The Interregional Transportation Strategic Plan, the ITSP, provides guidance for transportation improvement projects for state highways, intercity passenger rail, grade separations, and mass transit guideways. The ITSP guides preparation for the Interregional Transportation Improvement Program, the ITIP, which the Commission approves through the State Transportation Improvement Program process, the STIP process. The original ITSP was prepared in 1998 in response to the passage of SB 45 and identified a specific set of highway projects on 10 focus routes. In 2012, Caltrans issued a draft status update to the 1998 ITSP, providing a course of actions and considerations for the Interregional Improvement Program for the 20-year planning period from 2012 to 2032. For which the Commission provided comments. The final ITSP status update was issued in October 2013. With the enactment of Senate Bill 486, the Commission has an expanded role in the review and approval of the ITSP. Specifically, SB 486 directs Caltrans to submit the ITSP to the Commission for approval on or before June 30th, 2015. The ITSP is to be a high-functioning and balanced interregional transportation system which is action-oriented and practical, considering both the short-term and long-term transportation needs. The ITSP is required to provide clear and concise policy guidance to Caltrans for managing the state's transportation system. To ensure the 2015 ITSP is consistent with the Commission's corridor-based approach, providing a holistic view for transportation planning and programming, the Commission may want to consider providing Caltrans with an outline of expectations to ensure the ITSP addresses the most critical needs regardless of modal choice or system condition. Bill Figge, Caltrans Acting Deputy Director of Planning and Modal Programs, will be presenting an overview of the work plan and timeline for the 2015 ITSP.
Carrie, thank you. Bill, welcome.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. I understand that we're a little behind schedule, so I'll go through this as quickly as I can, but make sure we hit the high points.
Thank you.
So the first question is, what is the ITSP? And it is the long-range transportation plan guiding the connection of the state's regions. And I think some of the other background information was presented in the introduction there. So I'll move on to the update and the approach we're taking. The 2015 ITSP will assess the interregional transportation system, focusing on connections to the 8 major regions of the state as shown on this map. The goal is to designate key connections between these regions, and I just want to mention that interregional trips are defined as long-distance, non-commute trips between regions. This chart shows how the ITSP fits within the overall California transportation planning process. So the top row shows the overall umbrella composed of the California Transportation Plan and the regional transportation plans. These plans are the long-range policy framework for our future mobility needs and reduce greenhouse gas emissions. The second row, mostly in the blue, indicates where the CTP provides the direction to these individual plans that are mostly modal, but the ITSP fits within this tier. And then the third row contains potential funding sources for interregional travel needs identified in the ITSP. Partnership with local and regional agencies on corridor development is an important piece of developing funding packages for the ITSP needs. I think some of this was discussed in the introduction as well. The first ITSP was in 1998. We looked at basically focusing on 10 interregional highway corridors and 3 intercity rail corridors. That plan has basically been in place. The progress that you can see in the slide in terms of what was identified as needs in 1998 is shown, with 32% of the identified highway deficiencies have been addressed from the original plan, and we have more than doubled the number of intercity rail trains in service in California in the 3 intercity rail corridors. But obviously there's more to be done. So why are we updating the plan now? I think that part of it was the SSTI report that Caltrans received, talked about reforming and modernizing the department's mission, strengthening its performance, and aligning the department with the state's policy goals. The Commission's March 2013 letter to the department encouraged Caltrans to openly and transparently refine the ITSP. And specifically, the Commission recommended that Caltrans reevaluate whether the 1998 ITSP highway focus routes be continued as priority when aligned with other plans to achieve statewide goals such as greenhouse gas reduction and livable communities. In your letter, the Commission further recommended the Department incorporate performance measures in addition to cost-effectiveness criteria and look at other modes for meeting interregional needs. This chart shows the transportation funding breakdown for the current year. Obviously, the funding varies a little bit from year to year, but it gives the range of funding sources available for transportation investments, including interregional ones. As you know, the one specific interregional funding source is the Interregional Transportation Improvement Program, or the ITIP. Approximately $300 million has traditionally been programmed in the ITIP for interregional projects every 2 years. While $300 million is significant, it's somewhat small compared to all the funding spent in California each year. And this chart shows the ITIP to be about 1% of total funding in transportation. Our draft vision for the 2015 ITSP that we've put together is on this slide. It's developed and aligned with the California Transportation Plan vision and the new Caltrans mission. So it's a well-developed, high-quality, interregional state highway and intercity passenger rail system, serving as the backbone for the movement of people and goods throughout California. This slide indicates the draft objectives of the 2015 ITSP over on the left, starting with accessibility. And then the other portion of it explains how these draft objectives are in alignment with the California Transportation Plan and with Caltrans mission and vision that is newly been put together.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Thank you. I'll give you a second there. The key features of the 2015 ITSP, we are intending to identify priority interregional corridors, and interregional improvements will be considered as an integrated component of the complete statewide system. The multimodal concepts that we specifically will consider are transit and freight movement facilities, integrated multimodal connectivity, recreational and business travel needs, bicycle and pedestrian facilities, and emergency response activities. Previously mentioned 6 objectives of the ITSP will be used to develop criteria which will be used by the Caltrans Division of Transportation Programming during the update of the 2016 ITIP. We have made efforts so far to get out and talk with folks and create participation in this plan. So in November, the department held several open house style workshops around the state. We've had a webinar, and an online virtual workshop to solicit public comment regarding their vision of a state interregional system. We've received to date over 200 comments, and we had an online survey as well, and we had about 280 people participate in that survey. The key information that we're getting back from people so far is, number one, and not surprising, is the lack of funding. There's a lot of concern with connecting all the regions of the state, including the rural areas. There's a lot of support for the existing focus routes that were identified in the 1998 plan. An expanded intercity rail service has come up quite a bit. Multimodal options are a theme. And we've received comments on bicycles that were mixed. Some folks are thinking interregional is a good focus for bikes, and others are thinking that may not be the place to spend a lot of interregional funding. And of course, goods movement is a very important topic, and we're seeing a lot of comments about goods movement and the effect of the goods movement in California on our highways and what can be done to move goods to rail. The development schedule is well, we're underway. We will plan to have an initial draft plan developed based on our workshop and public input, and then ongoing input is still being solicited, so there's still opportunity for people to give us comments. The draft will be out for additional review in the California Transportation Plan workshops that we planned for the spring, and the draft plan will be presented to the Commission in the spring, with the final plan due on June 30th. And this is just the contact information for anyone who would like to continue to provide us comments. So with that, I thank you for your time, and if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Questions for Bill? And I see one. Commissioner Arp.
Yes, if you go back to the pie chart that showed where the funding comes from. So I'm just curious, other sources of information have shown that local sales tax measures collectively are providing more than half the money in the state. So here, it only shows about a quarter. I'm just curious where we get the discrepancy in this.
Part of this one includes the high-speed rail. I think that may have part of the reason for the state share being a little different. I think
the other discrepancy is the other pie charts, they're not exclusive to local sales tax measures, they're local controlled dollars. And some of these other pie charts are locally controlled dollars in addition to the local sales tax measure.
Well, that made about as much sense to me. Either I'm just like in another planet or what. What do you mean by that?
There are other locally controlled dollars that are contributing to the state highway system beyond the local sales tax.
Right, like developer fees, other things like that.
Right.
Okay.
So if I can, to finish clarifying that, when we show that chart where you see about 60% or so of the funding coming, that includes the state sales tax on gasoline that goes to the locals and the federal excise tax that goes to the locals. And so it's basically all the funding that's under local control, including sales tax measure, which is a large part of that.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions? Yes, Vice Chair Dunn.
Thank you. One of the issues that I'm finding from an interregional perspective looking statewide is that, and especially in our urban areas, there are some regions that are preparing managed lanes as part of their highway system and some regions that are not. And yet they're all connected. And so will the plan be a look at what you'd like to see, like the perfect world, or will you actually identify flaws in the system so that we can focus on making that connectivity? Particularly, I'm looking at the managed lanes aspect of this.
This plan is pretty high level in terms of looking at things from the statewide and mostly from a capital perspective, but I think that there are efforts underway to look at the issue of the operation of the managed lanes statewide.
Just not, this isn't the place.
Yeah, it perhaps would be something that could be mentioned here, but probably this wouldn't be the place to get into depth with it.
Because if one of the issues is your interregional highways, and that's a focus, perhaps you might look at that. That is a key component of interregional highway, connectivity. So I think it's that level of detail might be useful. Anyway, just my opinion.
Commissioner Dunn, we'll take that as very insightful feedback as we go back and look at the ITSP. We are talking about coming up with a statewide as well as a regional plan for managed lanes when we're in discussions with our local partners. The ITIP certainly addresses to and through major metropolitan areas, and we'll go back and see if we can work the appropriate language in.
Thanks, Bill.
Thank you, Vice Chair Dunn. Commissioner Inman.
I know that your vision statement's a draft, but I think if you can weave in there the multimodal objective, it's important to have that as part of our vision. As so many of these interregionals are system of systems, and I think that's important for all of us to always have the multimodal. And then the way it's written with intercity passenger rail, we mentioned goods movement in the last part of that sentence, but I think you might just want to say highway and rail systems, because we run our goods movement on
They both share the same?
Share.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, multimodal is definitely part of it, and if we need to make that a little clearer, we can do that.
Great. Okay. Any other questions for Bill? Bill, thank you again for joining us. You all here have been so patient. We started at 12:30. It is now almost 3:10. We are going to take a break so that you can stretch, and we will reconvene at 3:30. Thank you.